from a local economy perspective? Is there a way that we can deal with the problem? Because deal with it, city officials believe they must. We can deal with the problem and not exacerbate and make the problem worse. That, I'm afraid, is what was the outcome, the output from the press conference yesterday that was held by Chief Fred Fletcher and Mayor Andy Burke, the Democrat lawyer running for re-election at the head of city government. There were on a table there in plastic various weapons that had been they're called illegal weapons. I'm not sure exactly what that means, whether that's a marketing term or a statutory designation. Illegal weapons that had been taken from gang members, and the mayor and the chief of police are going to hire 14 more officers, raising the total to 500 police officers in Chattanooga that are whose main job is to enforce the law against the citizenry. That's their main job, because they all, of course, proudly describe themselves as law enforcement officers as opposed to peacekeeping officers and the like. They are law enforcement officers. And, of course, many of the officers as individuals help people. They actually help them and provide a service and provide amity and rescue sometimes and solve crimes. They gather evidence for criminal prosecutions of crimes that are in which really there is a victim. Someone has lost something. Someone has had a property stolen or been injured by an unknown assailant or been hit by a hit-and-run driver. And so police departments are there to help recoup the loss and have help the victim ascribe cost, be able to ascribe the cost of his losses to someone who can be held to account before the law. Well, this is David Tulis, and we're going to look at this question today, and we're going to try to bring the useful grid of local economy and free markets, and we could say constitutional government, to this whole question about the use of force and the enforcement of laws through municipal corporations, which Chattanooga, the city of Chattanooga is. It is a municipal corporation that has civil authority, and yet has, as we read Chattanooga versus Davis from 2001, a very important case, there are unanswered questions about the whole process of bringing before city court cases that are under statute and keeping the fees and fines and penalties in city government. That apparently has not been solved. The judges are grieved. The high court is grieved in that case brought by Jerry Summers on behalf of Mr. Davis here in Chattanooga, and prior to the turn of the century, the ruling coming out in 2001, raising questions. I don't think they've been resolved. I'm not sure what has happened, why the district attorney does not demand that the cases under his purview, under the enforcement of state law, don't go to criminal court, and why they're ending up in city court. I'm not sure what has happened with the outflow of that case, the results of that case. But I will keep reading on your account. This is David Tulis, and it is on your account that I do everything. Your account, the listener, here at the David Tulis program in Chattanooga, at the only station that really matters, the only media outlet that really matters. And why? Well, because you, my listener, you are the man who matters, and I'm glad that you've entrusted me with this fine representational office. I've been reading the very valuable work of a report that came out in March last year about police reform, and we want to kind of reiterate what these ideas are. They are local economy ideas, and I don't think they address directly the gang problem, though. I want, as we anticipate Joe Manuel coming on the program today to discuss some important legal concepts that may be useful to you. We want to consider the folly of current police practice, particularly the lines in the sand, the use of force continuum, and the 21-foot rule. These are hidebound ideas that have built themselves like crustaceans on the bottom of an ocean liner. Crustacean buildup, bringing a huge drag on on the operation of justice and liberty and the protection of the innocent. And they are rules that that prevent the right action of the state through its agents, the police officers, upon the citizenry, many of whom end up being beaten, tased, shot, hit, and gassed. We have a great deal of this kind of treatment around the country, and even here in Chattanooga, there are examples. However, as I looked at my Chattanooga Police Department policy manual, I'm finding something. I quickly checked this morning to see whether I had, since the authors of this report, the PERF report, discuss the need to have a de-escalation policy written into the code, the internal blue code of departments. I couldn't determine whether there is one for Chattanooga, but I did find something which suggests that there might be, or that there is. It's the mental illness rules. It's about 8 to 10 page document signed by Chief Fred Fletcher, who's was appointed by Mayor Andy Burke to be. It's probably just about 7 pages, and it describes how officers are to deal with those who have mental problems, and they are to. There's one statement in this policy directive that seems to make useless all the rest that follows, and it says officers should never compromise or jeopardize their safety or the safety of others when dealing with individuals displaying symptoms of mental illness. Well, if that's true, then, and no compromises are ever to be made, then all the other hundreds of words on these pages seem to be just useless. But I think that's put in there just to kind of shore up the morale of the officers. But the discussion about dealing with people with mental illnesses, I think, is highly valuable. And we can say, good, about 25% of the people in the county jail, Sheriff Jim Hammond tells our radio station, have mental problems. They're there because they can't function properly. They don't know how to assert their rights. They don't know how to they can't deal with the system. And once they're absorbed into the judicial industrial complex here in the county, it's hard for them to get out. And so this mental policy, I think, is good because it suggests that officers know that some people are not quite straight in their minds. There's a definition rather high that says that people with mental illness, or thought to be with mental illness, are those who have no control or no adequate control over their impulses, over their behavior, as it's called, and then e.g., ergo, aggressive, suicidal, homicidal, sexual, and or know how to take reasonable care of his/her welfare with regard to basic provisions for food, clothing, shelter, or safety. So people with mental problems, as they're called, often are irrational, and they have a potential for violence, but they have these other problems, which I would attribute them to spiritual. In the end, they're spiritual problems. They are problems that come from some false conception of God, and a false conception of their place in His universe as part of His creation, in terms of His law. Right? That's if a man who's aware of God's government and God's creation, he's going to govern himself much better than someone who's oblivious to these claims from on high, that would direct a man to provide for himself and keep his word and respect the property and lives of other people, and so on. An individual who demonstrates extremely inappropriate behavior for a given context may be emotionally ill. For example, a motorist who vents his frustration in a traffic jam by physically attacking another motorist may be emotionally unstable. Also, there's reference to in recognizing abnormal behavior, extreme rigidity or inflexibility. Emotionally ill persons may be easily frustrated in new or unforeseen circumstances and may demonstrate inappropriate or aggressive behavior in dealing with the situation. And these are sometimes these are circumstances that describe the mentally ill person, of whom there are 25% in the county jail are thought to be or known to be unstable in their minds and in their person. They don't sit comfortably on the seat of their persons, right? That would be the soul interacting with the physical nature, with the emotions, with the brain, the mind. Not all mentally ill persons are dangerous, while some may represent danger only under certain circumstances. And here in dealing with the mentally ill, there's a bit of local economy in Chief Fletcher's analysis of this problem. And this is a manual, by the way, that comes from the Chattanooga Police Department. It was gracious enough to fill my open records request for all training materials. And I'm going through this collection piece by piece. I've looked now in detail at 4 of them and written about one of them. I'm trying to publish one at Nooganomics.com. And this is, it's OPS 44 that came out in 2015. That's the date of issue is July or August. It's approval from the CALEA standards, these external lobbies that approve police departments' manuals and so on. But dealing with the mentally ill, it offers a local economy argument. Here we're coming to we're talking about gangs, right? We're talking about gangs. We're going to try to work our way to talk about gangs and the deaths over the weekend of 2 gang members, 3 other people shot, and a press conference yesterday reported on in the Chattanooga Times-Free Press and at the media outlets that tell about efforts to further militarize and have aggressive enforcement against these young men who are if they've done nothing wrong, they're probably right to carry a weapon. I mean, maybe they're too young to carry, but they can have weapons in their cars. I'd say that some deference should be given to the need of minorities to be able to defend themselves. I know white people often think that any black person with a gun is dangerous, and that is simply a prejudice. Okay, it's a holdover from the prejudice that got written into our statutes in the Tennessee Code annotated, the intent to go carry statute, which was written against blacks. It was written to completely disarm blacks, and in the end to completely subjugate the whole people of the state to the state itself and to its harassing policy, making it effectively illegal in Tennessee, illegal to carry or use a weapon, though there have been exceptions written into the statute to decriminalize these actions. So in other words, the statute creates defenses for what is a total ban on weapons. Weapons are banned in Tennessee thanks to Republicans and Democrats, and they graciously write exceptions into the ban, such as most recently the right to have a weapon in your car. So we're trying to get to gangs, but notice here in dealing with the mentally ill person how Chief Fletcher rightly uses local economy conversational theory, because local economy is, after all, about the personalization of the marketplace, making it personal, buying and selling in terms of personal perspective, not just selfishly as a consumer, right, but relationally and personally. That is the argument of local economy that I, David Tulis, your mild-mannered host with the bow tie and the sensible shoes, make here at this wonderful, wonderful radio station, to which you should always have your radio dial tuned and follow me and follow us at TuneIn Radio. TuneIn Radio is a free app, and you can put us as our radio station at the top of your Seek list there. The officer can request a backup officer and always do so in cases where the individual will be taken into custody. Okay, so if there's a mentally ill person, the officer determines that he will be seized and arrested. Don't do it alone. Take steps to calm the situation. Here again is conversation. Taking things personally, understanding that the mentally ill person, the subject, right, is a human being made in God's image. Calm the situation. When possible, eliminate emergency lights. All right, here we go. This is called de-escalation. De-escalation by Chief Fred Fletcher. Bravo. Eliminate emergency lights and sirens. Okay, why is the siren blaring? I mean, that just puts everybody on edge, right? That says the cops are here. Disperse crowds and assume a quiet, non-threatening manner when approaching or conversing with the individual. Where violence or destructive acts have not occurred, avoid physical contact and take time to assess the situation. This is local economy at its best. Now, the Mayor Burke, knowing that election is in March, is gearing up in the conventional way. Mayor Burke, as I think all the other candidates, are absolutely conventional in their ideas about policing. Maybe Dave Crockett's the exception. Maybe Dave Crockett is not like everybody else, though in an interview he gave me, he suggests that his views are, in fact, very, very typical And he in fact would be for more gun control rather than less. And probably on that point, Larry Groen has got him beat as far as you, my listeners' interests are concerned. Chief Fletcher says, move slowly. Move slowly. Here, talking about his rules for his officers on dealing with a mentally ill person. And do not excite the distressed individual. That is simply terrific. Move slowly. Now, these are all parts of the reform proposal that the candidates should be wise to consider, and which you, my listener, should exhort them to consider. Exhort them to consider. We make mention of this, by the way, at Nooganomics.com, our chief sponsor here at the David Tulis program, Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters. And yes, it's not popular. So if you join in, you're one of a few people who want to have the proper machinery, the proper oils and gears for thinking about the issues and proposing solutions and coming slowly as others join in to them. Move slowly and do not excite the distressed individual. And here, number 4, communicate with the individual in an attempt to determine what's bothering him. Now, you see this idea of asking questions. That's what we're all about. And that's what I do here. David Tulis, the slow man of Chattanooga. I ask slow. I'm slow. Okay. I don't get things. I'm very, very slow and not rapid in my understanding. Attempt to determine what is bothering him. Relate your concern for his feelings and allow him to ventilate his feelings. In other words, the officer here has to now give some time. He can't be under a quota system to stop people or arrest people or give citations. He can't be. That can't be in his in his dealings with his boss, part of the evaluation process. Relate your concern to his feelings and allow him to ventilate his. Where possible, gather information on the subject from acquaintances or family members and request professional assistance, if available and appropriate, to assist in communicating with and calming the person. Do not threaten the individual with arrest. There you go. You can't say, "Look, I'm going to arrest you." That just makes things worse. Or in any manner, as this will create additional fright, stress, and potential aggression. Avoid topics that may agitate the person and guide the conversation towards subject, Chief Fletcher says, and that help bring the individual back to reality. Always attempt to be truthful with a mentally ill individual. Don't lie about the law. Don't lie about what you're going to do. Don't lie about what he has to do. Don't lie about his purported obligations to you, the officer, in other words. If the subject becomes aware of a deception, he may withdraw from the contact in distrust and may become hypersensitive or retaliate in anger. Now, these are provisions in the mental illness policy manual part of the Chattanooga Police Department. And the things I've cited to you are very good. They are excellent. Now, the question I have, and I don't have the answer for you today, is there a de-escalation policy? Because this sounds like one. This sounds like it would be compatible on the whole. But police departments give about 58 hours to gun training, 49 hours to defensive tactics. Guess how many hours are given to de-escalation? This kind of thing that Chief Fletcher is describing as requisite for the officer dealing with a person with mental illness. Guess how many hours? Well, you're wrong. It's not that many. It's only 8. Okay, it's 8 hours de-escalation and crisis intervention. There needs to be an end to the old ideas that are national economy ideas, that are top-down governmental control ideas, when we need to have, in the way of reform, in the way of dealing with gangs, which we're still going to get, right? We're still going to get to the gang question in just a minute here. We need to get rid of the use of force continuum. We need to get rid of lines in the sand that led to Officer Stevenson executing, as a East Ridge City employee, executing a man in his front yard, point blank with a rifle. We need to get rid of the 21-foot rule that was devised in 1983 by, I think, Utah Police Department, and it got into Caliber magazine, and then it just kind of became law. It became law among police officers, and it's ingrained in them. It's not true. These are not true, and these things don't work. Now, the question I have for you is, the kind of thinking that we're attacking, does it help or exacerbate the gang problem? What do you think? My thinking is in by way of suspicion that it's going to make it worse. Chief Fletcher and Andy Burke are going to make the situation work by banging hard on these black gang members. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Final expenses, funeral costs, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
$25 goes by quickly these days, and 25 cents still just a quarter. 25 is the years of experience Schultz & Associates puts behind filing your tax return quickly, correctly, and electronically. Schultz & Associates.
Hi, I'm Chip Chapman with this question. Are you concerned about getting a timely refund this year? There is a solution. Ask Schultz & Associates about Refund Advantage. It's a no-interest loan that allows you to get your tax refund quickly. But some tax refund product fees do apply, so make sure and understand the details. You can receive your refund quickly via check or prepaid credit card. Ask about Refund Advantage when you visit Schultz & Associates, 6310 Bonnie Oaks Drive, or call 899-1130. Schultz & Associates.
Baseball sluggers often wear the number 25, or 25 is a full MLB roster. Just happens 25 is also the years of experience Schultz & Associates puts behind filing your tax return quickly, correctly, and electronically. Schultz & Associates, 899-1130.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appison. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929. And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field line failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Your marriage is over. You've been abandoned, betrayed. You're angry, shattered, and heartbroken. Don't go it alone. When you are facing divorce, you need an experienced advocate to help protect your rights in future. And you need it from a man with a sympathetic heart, but a hard nose. Attorney Clay Whitaker will fight for you in this most confusing and bitter time in your life. Clay Whitaker, 756-6400.
There's a reason why Alliance Physical Therapy is a choice of professionals and those who care about first-class, top-notch service and treatment. Because at Alliance Physical Therapy of Chattanooga, we don't just treat the symptoms in your body. Whether you're suffering from stiffness, muscle spasms, back pain, chronic headaches every day, stress of life demanding more and more of you, Alliance Physical Therapy takes a holistic approach to healing, mind, body, and soul. Alliance Physical Therapy with a location near you and 9 others in the Chattanooga area. If you don't have a doctor or if your physician's plan for chronic pain is not working, Alliance Physical Therapy will help. Visit Alliance Physical Therapy on the web at nopainpt.com. That's nopainpt.com. Alliance Physical Therapy.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. A high-speed police chase ends in a crash on Monroe Street. Marquis McReynolds and Jermichael Brooks were arrested after a high-speed police chase on Monday. The law enforcement officers involved a task force from the ATF, FBI, and the Chattanooga Police Department, which pursued their vehicle at Highway 58 and ended on Monroe Street when the driver of the suspect vehicle lost control, slamming into a ditch. Police surrounded the vehicle and arrested the 2 men inside. Police say 2 weapons were found inside the vehicle, and the 2 men were already convicted felons. They're now facing charges including evading arrest, narcotics, weapons, and auto theft. The Chattanooga Police Department is hoping to bring its ranks up to the number of 500. Are also wanting to install a local testing for shell casings, which will be able to match spent brass to a firearm. This all hinges on the city council approving funding. After an autopsy of the victim, a Walker County man is now going to be facing more charges after he's been charged in the strangulation death of his girlfriend after it was discovered in the autopsy that she was 3 months pregnant.
Expect a cool start to your Tuesday with some morning clouds. By the afternoon, though, lots of sunshine. Looking better, highs upper 50s. Tonight, mostly clear, chilly lows into the upper 30s. Increasing clouds Wednesday, mild. A few late showers, highs lower 60s, then turning much cooler for the rest of the week. State Farm is there with insurance when things go wrong, but also there to help life go right. With all kinds of combinations that can save you time, money, and simplify your life, talk to an agent at 800 State Farm. And I'm Sports 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I think Mayor Burke may have had it right in the early phases of the VRI, the Violence Reduction Initiative. The part of the program that was lampooned by right-wing people, even folks here at my radio station. Even we, some of us, lampoon this earlier effort as pizzas for punks and that kind of thing. Larry Groen, in an interview published at Chattanooga.com, had a choice phrase for that effort to, you might say, to pacify young mostly black and his minority men, to pacify them with pizzas and parlor talk and conversation, get-togethers where there's a kind of a disarmament and a conviviality among the officers and their captains and these young men who are entirely alienated from civilization. They live in a city, but they are apart from the city. And I want to explain how the ideas of local economy and the free market that we are all about here can really be, or might be, a better solution than the direction the mayor is taking. Perhaps because of his desire for re-election, perhaps because of prospects in technology in the police department. The mayor and Fred Fletcher, the chief, yesterday announced new measures using technology to nail down and essentially defeat these young men whom are accused of crimes. Some of them are involved in strong-arming, drug trafficking. Many of them live immoral lives. They have sex with girls with whom they're not married. They have a very short-term perspective. They are sensuous in their orientation. They are very present-oriented, as Edwin Banfield described members in ghetto residents as being short-term perspective. They can't build anything. That work, by the way, by Banfield is the late 1980s. The Unheavenly City is the title of the first edition. That was an explosive academic exercise that shook up academia, and then it came out again as The Unheavenly City Revisited. and it is very gang members and people who live in ghettos who have a very short time frame, and their problems elsewhere. We describe here how their problems are exacerbated and made fixed upon them by the state. The state, with its rules, its regulations, its taxation, its impositions into the marketplace, make an influidity, a kind of stagnation that makes progress very difficult for people, especially at the bottom. And about half of the licensed occupations in our state are those that are easily entered into by people who are poor and minority, but they can't because of the unreasonable oppressions of the market by the pretended authority of the state to regulate and own whole professions by converting them from rights to privileges. Many of these, and there is, by the way, that went into effect in January, a new statute that requires every state-owned profession, hair braiding, from hair braiding to doing nails and beauticians shops, all kinds of occupations that have no public safety interest whatsoever, other than the marketplace, destroying the bad and the weak and upholding the strong and the good and the faithful. Professions that are owned by the state. That's the kind of a context in which the ghetto, the poor part of town, exists. If you think back about Edwin Banfield's work, but let me try to characterize briefly what I understand the life of gang members to be like. And we heard about the young man who was killed in a fusillade of bullets, and then in his car with another colleague. And he was the story about in WRCB, a follow-up story based, I think, partly on Beth Berger's very fine report from 2012 in the paper. Tanisha Cordell writes and talks about Jamoke Johnson, 23, killed Friday night, also with a colleague, Christopher Woodward. Woodward was out of jail on bond for robbery charges, and they were dead in their car after being shot at and crashing. That's what kind of man is that, and what did the Times Free Press in its detailed report about his past and the hopes that were from Reverend Hudson, I think his name is, and others, Reverend Adams rather, Kevin Adams from Olivet Baptist Church, interviewed by TV3 yesterday. I was impressed by him. He says, one of the smartest young men I've ever had the opportunity to meet. So much potential, so many possibilities there. And when I say a leader, he had so much influence over everyone. So there was a young man who had some connection with the church. He was in public school, and but he had a subterranean secret life, if you will, and had enemies enough to bring muzzles and barrels aimed at him and his car on the street, and he was shot dead Friday. Well, the gang life. Let me just quickly try to characterize my understanding of that life. It is very local economy. Okay, you're gonna laugh at this, but it is. Gang members are highly geocentric. Okay, they're very turf oriented. They're very geocentric, lococentric, and Noogacentric. For them, Chattanooga and their part of it belongs to them. Okay, they own whole parts of town. They own whole districts. They're turf centric. They live by alliances. They live in a sort of informal hierarchical structure. Entry into their relations requires an act of courage or bravery. Often it's a crime. Often it puts them at odds with the law, with equity, and so they make their mark among each other as reliable cohorts by stealing something or damaging something or vandalizing a building or stealing something worth a certain amount of money or fencing something, that is to say, selling a stolen good or product. They have a sensuous life. They're not Christian men, of course. They live for the moment. They live for their sexual pleasures, their pleasures of inebriation and highs. They also traffic in these substances and in these females. They are very honor-oriented. They are highly honor-oriented. It's easy to diss a member of a black club or gang. He is very he has a great deal of pride in who he is, and you can't look down upon him as a piece of trash, right? He's not black trash. he's a man of honor and integrity, and in his own way, he is. And he's very many of these members of these gangs are highly sociable. They're very socially oriented, highly fluid in their relationships with others online many times, but also they read a lot of people. They know a lot of people. They read a lot of people, some of whom are terrified of them, and others just accept them as being, kind of ruffians. But if there's respect, if there's mutual respect, you're not going to be hurt by a gang member. Okay, if you respect a gang member and don't try to run him down or cheat him, he's gonna treat you, I would say, with some respect. They do have an internal code of honor, and they're not pure pragmatists. They're not pure sensualists, which means that they don't have any consistent mode of action. They are consistent in many ways. And so these are the people that Mayor Burke and Chief Fletcher yesterday announced that they're going to be the focus of an intense police program. As the headline says, targeting gang violence. Well, don't forget, you're not targeting violence. You can't target violence per se. You can only target people. Okay, you're targeting people whom you think are violent or whom you think are prospectively violent, and so you will do things that are brave and courageous and equally dangerous to stop them. Now, we know that police are as much a danger to the public as gang members. Now, we have a story yesterday of a chase in which the men running from police crashed 3 times. We're not told by the TB3 account whom the crashes were against. It doesn't say who they hit. But don't forget, a police chase against a vehicle that is stolen, a police chase is something that creates a great deal of excitement in the life of the officer. It's kind of what he lives for. And yet there is a very high risk for pedestrians, for children running and playing in a nearby yard, for an old person feeling down from the curb to the pavement as he's about to cross the potholed way there to cross the street. To get to his great nephew's house, and suddenly the chased car comes out, and the policeman flashing behind him at some distance over the hill there, just coming over the top. And here's the old man. What does he do? There is a great danger to the general public. The strategy, according to the TFP's account of the press conference, will focus on enforcement, community involvement, and aggressive prosecution under gun law. So the two main ones are enforcement and community involvement. There is, as a city council member and mayoral candidate Larry Groen points out, there is harassment of these young men, and these are for probable cause citations that are for petty things. This young man in his car didn't turn his indicator light on to make a left turn. His light illuminating his tag is out. Okay, that's the kind of thing that gives officers probable cause. And that is how they're being harassed. Authorities are also beginning the Chattanooga Federal Firearms Prosecution Partnership. Here we go again, where the good people in Washington are helping us out, right? A Democrat mayor will go to this readily, as I think Larry Groen would. Larry Groen and Andy Burke are not really distinguishable on the point of policing. The city has spent more than $1 million, according to the TFP report this morning, on VRI, but since it began in March 2014, shootings have not gone down. They rose from 63 in 2014 to 80 in 15, and with 80 in 2016, there were 36 homicides in 2016. The story says that, the Chattanoogan says in its account of this event that 51% of shootings are gang-related. Chief Fletcher said, over the past 4 years, 51% of homicides in Chattanooga and 56% of non-fatal shootings involve gang members as the victim or the suspect. Although extensive study and intelligence, through extensive study and intelligence, he says, we believe that under 1% of the city's population is actually involved in gang activity. I would say it's probably way less than that. That 1% threatens the well-being of our citizens. That 1%, he says, to drive the point home about the 1%, right, endangers lives. That 1% terrorizes neighborhoods. That 1% undermines your police officers' sacrifices to uphold their mission to keep you, your family, and our community safe. Well, Safety is what's promised by the regulatory state, right? If you have safety, you're promised that we have total knowledge to prevent crimes from happening before they happen. That's what regulation is all about. And that's what the idea of safety is. We have to know everything, and we have to go after people before they commit crimes. The Christianity doesn't promise safety. Christianity promises equity and justice. Justice occurs after a crime has been committed. Safety pretends that it can stop crimes from being committed, and it does that by the police state and the police department. We have 500 officers in blue, and that is a number that's been published. The numbers will be going up by 14, and that will bring, according to Monday's Chattanooga.com, the force to 500. That is a giant number of officers. And when chases are made, apart from intelligence, when police officers chase down two men as they did yesterday, and arrest them, there was a stolen car, as I said. It started on Highway 58, and it included ATF, FBI, and CPD pursuing this car, and it crashed multiple times and landed on Monroe Street in a ditch. They came shooting across here. Joseph Mathis, a witness, said he saw the wild chase involving a police cruiser and a car. He and several others were standing in front of a laundromat, watching intently. Now, this chase had to happen because cars go faster than radio signals and other means of communication, evidently. But it seems to me that if a car, that we don't want to endanger innocent people by chasing down a stolen car, okay? But they were after more than that. They were trying to get these men. They wanted to get these particular men, and they didn't want the car to escape and them to escape as well. But at what cost? Again, there's the cost to the public of increased risk. The idea in Chief Fred Fletcher's policy manual about the mentally ill is in the direction of reforms that the mayoral candidates are not talking about. As far as I can tell, no candidate has really discussed reform. And the reforms that need to happen are becoming obvious. They're becoming obvious, especially if you read Nooganomics.com. There are continuing glimmers of the solution to the police execution problem. That is to say, the problem where police execute someone, as they did a couple of Fridays ago, I think it was, in Saudi Daisy, at the killing of Chris Sexton, the man with the temper tantrum, who violated an order of separation from his family members. He had been married for about 10 years and had marital problems and was under an order of separation. Having been caught near violating that rule, he was chased. He gave chase, and the police gave chase over 2 hours in 2 counties, and finally he was pushed to the side of a guardrail in his black pickup truck, and there was an armed confrontation. And rather than make efforts to spare his life and to negotiate him to put his weapon down, the courageous officers shot him dead. And we haven't heard the final details, or the preliminary report about how many times he was hit with what caliber bullets, and which was he hit in the head or was he hit in the neck? Where did the police bullets go? What we need to have is a culture change. A culture change will not come about unless there is demand from the people, and the people I'm talking about are ones like you, my listener. Why don't you ask the mayoral candidates about the four reforms? They're very simple: de-escalation, space, time, and cover. Now, what I'm reading from is what I've been looking at in the past couple of days is why we need to challenge conventional thinking on police report, and it's the PERF's 30 guiding principles on the use of force. It is a paper put out by a police think tank. It is a pro-police think tank, by the way. Policing is generally a good thing. It's not viewed as unconstitutional. It's viewed as lawful and good and right, and we need to just make it better. And so you might question the origin, but Mr. Wexler, who is the principal author of this very fine volume of about 130 pages, says there needs to be a culture change so that innocent lives are not destroyed by the officer, and that risks to the public. Members of you, and you, my listener, let's just say you're a member of the public, right? You've done nothing deserving of death. You've done nothing worthy of capital punishment. And a man who violates an order of restraint against him, a domestic dispute, a judge having intervened, He does not deserve to die. He does not deserve to be provoked. He does not need to be chased. He does not need to be chased. And the officers can say, well, we chased him because we thought he might go and kill somebody. Well, no, he was just in the neighborhood of someone who was protected by an order, and he was too close, and he was going to be stopped. It was a traffic stop that he fled, and he came out of his truck with his gun, knowing full well what would happen. He knew what was going to happen. Now, Sheriff Hammond could say, whose deputies were responsible, could say, well, we can't second guess the deputies. Well, of course you can. That's what inquests are about. That's what trials are all about. Criminal trials and civil trials are second guessing what someone did and trying to find out whether it was wrong and a criminal or whether it was just a misperceived act. The officers could have said, okay, we have an armed confrontation here. What can we do to not make us shoot this man? Because we outnumber him. We're about 10 of us, and we're all good shots. We practice on the range. He's not a good shot. He may fire at us, but he's not likely to hit us. What can we do to make his irrational act, his ill temper, it was a suicidal venture to exit that pickup truck cabin, gun in hand. He had done something previously suggesting that he had a suicidal part of his thinking processes, and Mr. Chris Sexton, 29 years old, lost his life. He did not deserve capital punishment, and doing that kind of thing is certainly foolish. It is certainly foolish. But why do we have policies in the sheriff's department and the police department that allow people to commit suicide? Why do we need to oblige them? Well, I think we don't. And it's up to the people, especially when we're dealing with the sheriff who's elected, to demand reforms. We need to ask the candidates for mayor about the culture change proposed that go in the direction of local economy, that go in the direction of giving a potentially explosive situation more time, putting distance between the officer and the man with the knife, right? The man with the gun. The man with the gun, he's not going to come charging after an officer to shoot him down. He just wants a way out, and he wants to be able to get out with a sense of dignity. Is it possible that he can be persuaded to put his gun down, that that's the right thing to do? That, in fact, his honor and dignity require him to put his gun down? That's the argument that has to be made. And it can't be made when barrels are leveled at a man's head and the laser beams are touching him on his chest and his shoulders and his stomach. When that happens, it's too late, and the officers are going to pull the trigger, and a man is going to be killed who did nothing to deserve capital punishment. And here, it's summary, right? It's a summary execution of a man who was threatening the officers, and statutorily, their actions are defensible. But do we have to go by the minimum? Do we have to go by the minimum?
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
On this cruise ship, your favorite pool makes its own waves. The sun is getting low. You're not too bad yourself. Smart guy. Took advice and deals from Expedia in Chattanooga. Great food, great fellow passengers, made friends. Terrific prices, free upgrades. Use the card with the onboard credit for a cold one. Maybe use it in the game room. Expedia Rail, Expedia Flights, Expedia Cars. Maybe red tie for dinner. Expedia Cruise Ship Center is on Gun Barrel near Best Buy. 551-3770.
Cash, 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 and more cash. No, but it'll get you the gold, silver, and diamonds just for her that may get you some loving.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
It's for Valentine's Day. Are you crazy? You're just getting her flowers that are going to wilt? Give her something that'll last a lifetime. Gold, silver, diamonds, jewelry. A girl's best friend are not wilting flowers. They're diamonds. So let me tell you, my friend, don't make a mistake. Rick Davis Gold and Silver with the shiniest diamonds at the best price. But you gotta get to Rick before the deals are all gone. Don't wait. Rick Davis Gold and Silver. He's got your cash, 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 and more cash. And for Valentine's Day, lots of what she'll love.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
It's Valentine's Day.
a day to be happy when you have a baby.
McCune Williams and Ashley PLLC offers a full array of legal services to meet the needs of businesses and individuals. Our attorneys represent diverse backgrounds, interests, and legal emphasis, but we share one common goal: providing the highest quality legal services to our clients through the combination of our talents, experience, and expertise. In each case, we strive to tailor those services to meet each client's specific circumstances. Business law, business organization, civil litigation, commercial litigation, conservatorship and guardian law, bankruptcy law, just to name a few. With over 188 years of combined experience, McCune Williams Ashley PLLC is here to help you and your business succeed. MWALawfirm.com. That's MWALawfirm.com. Call 423-756-6400. That's 423-756-6400.
What? Oh no, I can't believe my phone screen is cracked. I cracked it. I can't believe my screen is cracked. I need my phone.
Whoa. Slow down, wild man. We've got an easy solution. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Your cell phone repair doctor is on the job. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Check out our brand new location. Just off I-75, Old Lee Highway next to Zaxby's. That's right, your cell doctor in Ottawa, Cell Surgeon, most of the time can fix your smartphone on the spot. Your cell phone repair doctor is on the job. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Check out our brand new location. Just off I-75, Old Lee Highway next to Zaxby's. Cell Surgeon for all your cell needs. Most repairs are performed in less than an hour. TheCellSurgeon.com. Go to TheCellSurgeon.com.
Daisy, get my cell phone out of your mouth right now.
We're at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Yes, ma'am. 2 orders of nachos with beef and beans and 2 beers. Chattanooga loves its Amigos restaurants, but the Amigos in Hickson has something extra. NCAA, the week's big game. How about a house wine? Really good. Big name beers. Just tell Maria what you want. And here at Amigos, margaritas are popular. And it's only $3 a day. If you come here on a game day, Saturday, a Natty Light is only $2.25. Here at Amigos, just during NCAA, Natty Light, $2.25. Amigos Mexican Restaurant in Hickson. The happy hour is 3 to 9 today and every day. I'd say the atmosphere is festive. Look at that huge TV. It's like being amid the fans under a bright sun, but without all the heat. Stay cool. Quench your thirst. Amigos, between the Staples and Hobby Lobby. Take the table next to mine and enjoy the great NCAA game with friend or family here at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Okay, it's starting. The NASCAR racer's ideal is quality and excellence. So is mine. Hi, David Tulis here. My pit crew is S&S Auto Repair. I've taken Toyotas and Hondas to S&S for 13 years, even though it's way out of my way. I like being treated fairly, like a neighbor. S&S specializes in Toyota and Lexus, Honda, Acura, Scion, Nissan, and Infiniti. Make an appointment today and get a free 4-inch combat knife as a gift. 855-3436. ssautorepair.net. 855-3436.
No. Charge! You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy. Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. The menu for a breakfast meeting still underway at the White House included a helping of welcome news for auto industry CEOs. CBS News correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
The president told the heads of GM, Chrysler, and Ford his administration will be extremely hospitable to companies that grow manufacturing jobs in the U.S. He said up to now, the U.S. has been very inhospitable, accusing the Obama administration of imposing too many environmental regulations.
I am, to a large extent, an environmentalist. I believe in it. But it's out of control.
Mr. Trump promised a very short environmental review process that the automakers would find very friendly.
In a tweet earlier today, the president said he wants car companies to build more U.S. plants. CBS News has just confirmed that President Trump will keep FBI Director James Comey on the job. The New York Times first reported the story. During the campaign, the president criticized Comey's handling of the Hillary Clinton email case, but the two men hugged at a ceremony the other day. CBS News senior legal analyst Andrew Cohen.
Comey's term doesn't end until 2023, so President Trump would have to fire him if he wants a new FBI director. The reason for the overlapping terms was to try as much as possible to insulate the FBI from partisan politics, and we'll soon see how well that's working.
President Trump's freeze on government hiring isn't sitting well with union leaders. Jeffrey David Cox is with the American Federation of Government Employees.
The greater D.C. area, it will be felt because government is a major employer here.
An analyst with the Conservative Heritage Foundation says the freeze will give the president time to find and eliminate inefficiencies. A prominent Republican believes President Trump's decision to drop out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal is a mistake. Senator John McCain told CBS this morning he expects the Chinese to fill the void.
This will cede the field to China, and that, to me, is not good for the United States of America.
The president said TPP wasn't in the best interest of American workers. Live to Los Angeles now, where CBS's Steve Futterman has the lowdown on this year's Oscar nominations.
And, Frank, it was a big day for La La Land. The musical received a record-tying 14 nominations. It now becomes the Oscar favorite. For those hoping for more diversity among the nominees, their wishes were answered. 6 actors of color received Best Picture nominations, including Denzel Washington and Viola Davis. Several of the Best Picture nominees deal with the struggles of minorities. Live in Los Angeles, Steve Futterman, CBS News.
On the Weather Watch, California can look forward to a break from the barrage of winter storms that have caused floods and mudslides. Churning surf from a nor'easter is eroding beaches along the East Coast, where heavy rain and winds approaching hurricane force caused floods, brought down trees and power lines, and damaged homes. In early Wall Street trading, the Dow Industrials are up 9 points. This is CBS News.
Message and data rates may apply.
If you're considering going back to school, ask yourself the following questions. Do you need the flexibility to take classes on your schedule? Do you have college credits you need transferred? Do you want to earn a quality degree from a world-renowned university? If you answered yes to any of these questions, Arizona State University is the perfect school for you. Arizona State University offers over 100 highly ranked degree programs 100% online. You'll earn the same degree as you would on campus from wherever you are on your schedule. Plus, ASU Online accepts most transfer credits.
For information, text the word TEST to 35517.
Learn for yourself why the Wall Street Journal ranks ASU 5th in the nation for producing the best qualified graduates, and why 90% of ASU grads are recruited within 90 days of graduation. Learn to grow, learn to succeed, and learn to thrive at Arizona State University.
To learn more about ASU online degrees, text TEST to 35517. Again, that's TEST to 35517.
British voters approved a pullout from the European Union, but they won't get the last word. CBS's Larry Miller has the story from London.
In a setback for the British government, the UK Supreme Court ruled it cannot trigger the withdrawal from the EU without a vote by Parliament. The head of the Supreme Court, Lord Neuberger.
The UK's constitutional arrangements require such changes to be clearly authorized by Parliament.
This may delay Brexit talks with the EU, but not stop them. Lawmakers will not want to be seen defying the will of the people. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
In Fostoria, Ohio, police who stopped an erratic driver may have done a double take when they saw who was behind the wheel. The driver who led them on a 70-mile-an-hour chase turned out to be a 10-year-old who decided to take his parents' car for a spin. The 11-mile ride ended when the car hit a curb. The boy wasn't hurt. Juvenile authorities are reviewing the case. Frank Settapanis, CBS News.
Getting a great night's sleep is easier and more
about
affordable
AM
than you might
1240.
think.
Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Expect a cool start to your Tuesday with some morning clouds. By the afternoon, though, lots of sunshine. Looking better, highs upper 50s. Tonight, mostly clear, chilly lows into the upper 30s. Increasing clouds Wednesday, mild, a few late showers, highs lower 60s, then turning much cooler for the rest of the week. State Farm is there with insurance when things go wrong, but also there to help life go right with all kinds of combinations that can save you time, money, and simplify your life. Talk to an agent at 800 State Farm. And I'm Sports Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops the right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's David Tulis.
This is David Tulis, and I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. We are here at the radio station that argues for local economy and the free markets, And among those points are, well, the slogan is love your neighbor and shop local. We think that near is better than far, that small is better than big, that simple is better than complex, and that personal is better than corporate. And down in the footnotes, we suggest that physical may be better than abstract. Abstractions are a thing that lawyers deal a great deal with. However, they are always about some idea of right and wrong, some idea of procedure in which the parties in a case may arrive at a just and true verdict based on the facts, based on equity, based on perhaps a law. Among those here in Chattanooga practicing this amazing profession is Joe Manuel, who is here to talk with me about some questions. Joe, it seems that in many ways the election of Donald Trump by the common working man is an affirmation of the argument he made that we need to take our country back. And and I've poetically described his election as a populist as an action in replevin. And replevin is in fact a legal remedy. And I wanted just you to tell my listener what replevin is. If he ever has a dispute with someone in which replevin might be a remedy, talk about such a dispute and how replevin is the remedy for getting back.
Well, in a nutshell, replevin is an action, typically it's an equitable cause of action to recover personal property. So if someone has your car and won't give it back or something else, that's the sort of action that you might bring to recover it. So you're talking, and it is a taking back what is my property. What you're talking about very broadly is some folks view that, in this election, the people took back something, or they returned someone or put somebody in office that they think will return more to I guess, a limited philosophy or approach to government. But
replevin is a legal remedy. So give my listener Joe Manuel a suppose that these things happen, and then describe how, in general terms, how replevin is the way by which he gets back this lost thing, this property item.
Well, you'd file your lawsuit typically in Chancery Court and point out, my neighbor has wrongfully taken over my vehicle, or some piece of my other property, or my truck, or something else. It can sometimes be used in another sense in terms of, unlawful possession. You can file an unlawful detainer warrant in General Sessions Court to take back, a house or rental property, things of that nature. So there's a systematic, orderly way of recovering property that you believe is yours and settling a dispute over who it belongs to.
So unlawful retainer warrant is something like replevin?
It's a first cousin to it. You typically see that in a situation where someone is leasing a house or even a business facility or an apartment, and they've stopped paying their rent. And the landlord, wants to put them out and recover, they're unlawfully holding over. And so the landlord, there's an orderly process that you file in General Sessions Court to evict that person.
So is that the same thing as eviction? Eviction is just the result of the unlawful retainer warrant?
Yes.
Okay, so the listener, does he petition for that warrant, or does he somehow, is the warrant that is given to him, or does that come from the judge to the opposing party?
The term warrant's a little bit of a misnomer. It's basically you're filing a complaint. And in our General Sessions Court practice in Tennessee, it's a pre-printed form, and a layperson can go down and fill it out and fill in the blanks, so to speak, of I've rented to Mr. Tulis and he stopped paying the rent, and I want to resume possession and have possession of my apartment. And I also want a money judgment against him because he owes me 2 months back rent.
Explain to the listener why it's important that these things be handled by a judge and not individually. What is the danger if individuals use other means than courts to bring about the satisfaction of such a claim?
Well, you immediately wind up in a dangerous, violent situation where, if I'm the landlord and I want to go evict you because you've stopped paying your rent, I show up in, if I don't have an orderly legal procedure, I show up with a force or a group of people, and we physically remove you and set you and your stuff out in the yard.
And one of your friends has a shotgun.
Yeah, that's what I say. Immediately is going to turn into a violent situation.
Right. You have confrontation. So courts in general exist so that the listener has a lawful and peaceful and even kind of boring way of obtaining relief from that situation where the renter has not moved out and he's not required to gather up his friends and their pickup trucks and their pitchforks and shotguns and heave out somebody. Right.
Oh, it's exactly. The courts are there. We have conflict, and the courts are there to resolve conflict in a peaceful, orderly way.
And that's because the court knows, and I guess God knows, that if men can't have one in authority, which would be a chancery Judge Fleener, let's say, without someone in authority to declare this is the situation, and you, the man holding the property, you must leave now, giving a stern official order, that without having a system like that, men resort to vulgar and brute force.
We do. That's our human nature. And to use the example of the landlord situation, is once that is filed and it goes to court, it's adjudicated, and the judge says, yes, you can, you're entitled to possession of your apartment, and Mr. Tulis has to move out. What happens is the sheriff's department will go out and tell Mr. Tulis that the court has issued a possession order, and Mr. Manuel's going to come take possession of this back. And on that day, they'll tell the tenant, we're going to be here at 10 o'clock. And if you're not out by then, I'm going to have you stand aside. I'm going to place Mr. Manuel in possession of these premises. And that means you are going to stand aside. And if Mr. Manuel wishes, he'll have his movers come in and literally carry out your property. Nobody's going to engage in any violence, but that's what's going to happen.
By force, under the protection of the deputy.
Yes, by law.
By law, by force, by the order of Judge Fleener in this case.
Well, usually it's a general sessions judge. It could be Chancellor Fleener.
Well, okay, so then the owner has you, Joe Manuel, take ownership of the property, which is already yours, but the use of it has been denied to you by the recalcitrant Tulis, who is not moving and who thinks somehow he has a right to stay there, and he can stay there unmolested, not having paid for months, and he's depriving you of a lawful right use. You are asserting a property right. Is that right?
Exactly.
A property right to your dwelling and your business property that Tulis has not honored. So the problem is that the man in the building does not respect a property right that's yours, that you now are having to assert with the assistance of the court through the unlawful retainer warrant, or through, if it's an object, replevin. Because replevin deals with objects, right?
Yes,
physical objects.
We call it, the normal term is it's an action to recover personal property. A car is personal property. A couch. Essentially everything except a land or something attached to it falls into the category of personal property.
Now, and a piece of personal property can't be a thing like a copyright, right? It can't be intellectual property.
It's probably more of a property, would be more considered a property right. It's a type of you can call it a business right. It falls more generally into that category.
We're talking with Joe Manuel. This is David Tulis. We do thank you for tuning into our show, in which we look at ideas and facts that are helpful to you, our listener. Joe, let me ask you about another question regarding property rights. Now, in North County, there's been last Monday a vote. Maybe it wasn't Monday, but in the past few days, a vote by the county commission to deny a special use permit to a gun range dead zero shooting after very vocal complaints by one family and with some support of others, saying that this is going to ruin our lives and endanger our children. And you had been involved in a Collegedale shooting range where the owners were making similar grievances, but the range was already there. What does my listener need to know about his property rights let's say as a businessman? Take it from the businessman's perspective, who wants to build something that might cause a disturbance to neighbors.
Well, you have to start with a proposition that we have zoning even in the county, and essentially anywhere in Hamilton County. Let's just use the example outside a municipality. You have to have what we would normally call a special use permit if you want to build a shooting range, even if it's on your property. And that's to protect the folks around you from projectiles escaping from a shooting range and from noise escaping from the shooting range. Those are the two big considerations. And I think the primary consideration, at least what I could tell from afar with the most recent situation in the north end of the county, was a concern about noise. And there was also a concern that there was not enough data, that the noise levels from particular calibers of weapons had not been measured. We typically measure those sorts of things at the property line. You can equate it with water or noxious fumes or smells or things. You know, you need to keep it on your property or keep it in such a manner that it's not objectionable to your neighbors. And that was the big issue as I saw it, were the noise levels. The issues, of course, they're more important in one sense. The safety issues, projectiles leaving the property have the ability to damage or kill someone. But from what I could tell, in this instance, the more pressing issue was the noise. So even if it's your property, you basically can't do anything on it that's going to damage your neighbor.
How strictly are municipal governments bound by their charters, Joe Manuel?
Well, normally they're bound very much. Now, the charters tend to have some catch-all provisions in them with language like to do those things that are necessary to fulfill the enumerated powers herein. And you usually talk about a general health and welfare clause or provision for the citizens of the municipality.
Well, let's say a town is told by its charter that every action that arises within its borders for an offense against a city ordinance or bylaws has to be tried in city court. For example, in Dunlap, we have a case brought by the city against Carol and Thomas Gaddy, a case that's gone on in Chancery now for almost 2 years. And I pointed out in my case that the case is in the wrong court because the charter at ordinance title and Article 16, Section 1 says that the city court shall be presided over by a judge, and he has jurisdiction in and over all cases for the violation of and all cases arising under the laws and ordinances of the city. And Stephen Greer, who's the city attorney with a practice there on the main drag in Dunlap in Sequatchie County, began his action in Chancery. Now, and Mrs. Gaddy has objected to this action in Chancery for saying it has no subject matter jurisdiction. What do you make of this kind of dispute over jurisdiction? Because a judge without jurisdiction can do nothing. He is impotent to act or even to say anything except to get the case out of his court.
Well, this is a case I have not studied. One has to be careful about generalizing. The section you're talking about sounds like a typical section that gives authority to a city judge to deal with city ordinances and city ordinances that fall within only the city's boundaries. But in many instances, you have some concurrent jurisdiction, or you may have jurisdiction in Chancery Court. And one of the things that you need to understand initially about Chancery Court is it has extremely broad jurisdiction. Its jurisdiction is, in my view, broader than our criminal court civil judges. So you have very broad jurisdiction. And from what little you were telling me about this case, it sounds more like a quasi-criminal civil case with some sort of remedies. So there may be a state statute or there may be a common law action that would get basis that's giving jurisdiction to Chancery Court, or it may be that the jurisdictional question has not yet been determined. I just don't know where it is.
Well, I understand that you're not familiar with the case, but it seems to me, though, that saying that Chancery has very broad jurisdiction is not relevant if the charter directs the city under, in this case, is Ordinance 88, which deals with dangerous properties and nuisance properties. That's an ordinance, and this case was not brought under the city's own court system, but went to Chancery. So it really doesn't, it's irrelevant how wide the jurisdiction of Chancery is if the city is told by the General Assembly, right? Because this charter is the word of the General Assembly to these town fathers who incorporated, right? Is that not fair? Why are they in the wrong court?
Well, when you use the word nuisance, Chancery Court does normally have jurisdiction over nuisance cases. So that may be how the city is trying to trigger the Chancery Court's jurisdiction. So, and we're just looking at this one little section, and nuisance cases, if it has to do with criminal activity being a nuisance, there may be a way of getting outside the limited city judge's jurisdiction.
Well, it seems to me that the word all cases for the violation of and all cases arising under the laws and ordinances of the city is pretty clear. There's not much breathing room outside of that.
Well, let me say this, though. Again, I don't know any of the facts of the particular case, but the case in Chancery Court may not be predicated, at least entirely, upon the city ordinance. The doctrine of nuisance is very broad. And an individual, the shooting ranges we're talking about, if, I was involved in a case many years ago over another shooting range, and one of the issues there was it a nuisance or not? And that is an action that's, so Chancery Court definitely has jurisdiction of a nuisance action. So the more we're talking, I'm beginning more and more to suspect that the basis for being in Chancery Court is they're not just relying on the ordinance, but they're relying on the common law doctrine of this activity constitutes a nuisance, and we, the city, have a right to, ask the court to declare it a nuisance. And I think you said they actually wanted to evict the people or maybe tear down the place.
Well, it's a remarkable case. This is David Tulis, and we're talking about the Carol and Thomas Gaddy case in Dunlap. And I believe that the couple are under now an order of inspection in mid-February, in which if they don't agree to the inspection, they will be held in civil contempt of Chancery Court in Sequatchie County. We're talking with Joe Manuel. This is David Tulis. Joe, tell my listener what the idea of necessity is, because necessity is used by the state often to ride roughly over constitutionally guaranteed rights. We have a compelling state interest. We have a necessity to not honor the Constitution in this case or that. But the state is not the only party that can have necessity. What is the doctrine of necessity, and how can my listener use it for himself if he's ever accused, let's say, of rushing his wife to the hospital to give birth, and he's gone through a red light and a cop has chased after him? That might be a case where necessity would arise.
Well, the doctrine of necessity is a very old doctrine, and it's a common law doctrine. It's not really found much in our statutes, and it's also something that in one sense is more fun to talk about philosophically than it is to try to apply it in real life. To give an example of a codification of the doctrine of a necessity, and one of the few instances that I'm aware of is the self-defense to taking another person's life. That is certainly a crime, except we have codified and accepted for hundreds of years in our jurisprudence that you may be justified, or you may of necessity be forced to take a life to save your own or to save a loved one's life. So in that instance, that's one of the easiest examples of necessity. I tend to see necessity used in practice more by a municipality, a state, or the United States, because when you get into emergency situations and there's situations, we're going to tear this down so we can protect the city, or we're going to do this, which would normally be against the law. It's one of those sort of extenuating circumstances that justify the conduct. And in my view, it's something that should be used very rarely.
But necessity is always the tyrant's plea.
That is true. That is true.
And so,
that can be, and it can be abused. Well, one of the greatest examples of, I wouldn't call it the doctrine of necessity, but one of the greatest examples of a clearly unconstitutional action was by President Lincoln during the Civil War, when he suspended, the right to habeas corpus, and his comment was, "Shall all the laws fail but for the enforcement of the one?"
And what did he mean by that?
Well, his view was, if I have to literally comply with the writ of habeas corpus, we can't prosecute this war we're engaged in. And if we can't prosecute the war, I can't save the Union. So I'm going to save the Union, and we'll sort out the unconstitutionality later.
And the great free man, General Robert E. Lee, resorted to the compulsory draft in the South to to shore up the Southern armies. So they all resorted to unconstitutional currency issues and inflation to pay the rates. Joe Manuel, how can my listener get a hold of you?
My number is 266-3535. Thank you so much.
Give the number again.
266-3535.
This is David Tulis, been picking the brain of Joe Manuel, attorney, formerly a judge candidate. And we are interested in your liberties and in you being a smarter, wiser man. The doctrine of necessity might be a great point for you to remember. And also remember in a criminal case that the state has to prove mens rea, guilty mind in a criminal matter. So that's often, I think, overlooked. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Final expenses, funeral costs, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
$25 goes by quickly these days, and 25 cents still just a quarter. 25 is the years of experience Schultz & Associates puts behind filing your tax return quickly, correctly, and electronically. Schultz & Associates. Hi, I'm Chip Chapman with this question. Are you concerned about getting a timely refund this year? There is a solution. Ask Schultz & Associates about Refund Advantage. It's a no-interest loan that allows you to get your tax refund quickly. But some tax refund product fees do apply, so make sure and understand the details. You can receive your refund quickly via check or prepaid credit card. Ask about Refund Advantage when you visit Schultz & Associates, 6310 Bonnie Oaks Drive, or call 899-1130. Schultz & Associates.
Baseball sluggers often wear the number 25, or 25 is a full MLB roster. Just happens 25 is also the years of experience Schultz & Associates puts behind filing your tax return quickly, correctly, and electronically. Schultz & Associates, 899-1130.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision. River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929. And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. It happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Your marriage is over. You've been abandoned, betrayed. You're angry, shattered, and heartbroken. Don't go it alone. When you are facing divorce, you need an experienced advocate to help protect your rights in future. And you need it from a man with a sympathetic heart, but a hard nose. Attorney Clay Whitaker will fight for you in this most confusing and bitter time in your life. Clay Whitaker, 756-6400.
There's a reason why Alliance Physical Therapy is a choice of professionals and those who care about first-class, top-notch service and treatment. Because at Alliance Physical Therapy of Chattanooga, we don't just treat the symptoms in your body. Whether you're suffering from stiffness, muscle spasms, back pain, chronic headaches every day, stress of life demanding more and more of you, Alliance Physical Therapy takes a holistic approach to healing, mind, body, and soul. Alliance Physical Therapy with a location near you and 9 others in the Chattanooga area. If you don't have a doctor or if your physician's plan for chronic pain is not working, Alliance Physical Therapy will help. Visit Alliance Physical Therapy on the web at nopainpt.com. That's nopainpt.com. Alliance Physical Therapy.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. A high-speed police chase ends in a crash on Monroe Street. Marquis McReynolds and Jermichael Brooks were arrested after a high-speed police chase on Monday. The law enforcement officers involved a task force from the ATF, FBI, and the Chattanooga Police Department, which pursued their vehicle at Highway 58 and ended on Monroe Street when the driver of the suspect vehicle lost control, slamming into a ditch. Police surrounded the vehicle and arrested the 2 men inside. Police say 2 weapons were found inside the vehicle, and the 2 men were already convicted felons. They're now facing charges including evading arrest, narcotics, weapons, and auto theft. The Chattanooga Police Department is hoping to bring its ranks up to the number of 500. Are also wanting to install a local testing for shell casings, which will be able to match spent brass to a firearm. The council approving funding. After an autopsy of the victim, a Walker County man is now going to be facing more charges after he's been charged in the strangulation death of his girlfriend after it was discovered in the autopsy that she was 3 months pregnant.
Expect a cool start to your Tuesday with some morning clouds. By the afternoon, though, lots of sunshine. Looking better. Highs upper 50s. Tonight, mostly clear, chilly lows into the upper 30s. Increasing clouds Wednesday, mild. A few late showers, highs lower 60s, then turning much cooler for the rest of the week. State Farm is there with insurance when things go wrong, but also there to help life go right. With all kinds of combinations that can save you time, money, and simplify your life, talk to an agent at 800 State Farm. And I'm Sports 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
The election of Donald Trump was, in a way, an action in replevin. Now, replevin sounds complicated, but it really isn't. It's the name of a remedy that you can exercise if someone is holding physical property that belongs to you and will not yield it, will not give it back to you, will not surrender what is yours, an item or an object to which you have a claim that you can prove. And so your action in replevin is one that describes that relationship, describes how you lost the possession of this property, identifies the property with a serial number or a description, and claims that the other party, the defendant, is obligated to give it back. And so an order then issues about your rights, saying from, say, Chancery Judge Fleenor or Jeff Atherton, that your property must be restored to you under the order of the judge, right? That's enforceable by the sheriff. And so the dispute is over. You are satisfied. You have back what you have. And the election, as we understand it here at the David Tulis program, is intended to be the same thing, except the thing being restored is not an object, right? It is an abstraction. And it is in the nature of our future, the nature of the American ideal, the prospect of the working man, the end of the skimming and scamming national economy, the wartime economy sector with its neocons, its neolibs, all those people who are making their livings and becoming extraordinarily wealthy on government connection, by contract, by association, by affiliation, by insider information. people who make a killing in that almost largest sector of the economy, which is the financialized sector, where fortunes are made in hedge funds and betting in the casino, if you will, of the fiat money world, where, as I say, fortunes are made on betting whether the dollar will go up against the euro or down, or against the Swiss franc or other currencies, and the yen, and we're going to bet, and we're going to make our killing just betting or placing insurance contracts for it to go up, insurance contracts to pay out if it goes down, and the like. That's the non-productive part of the world economy, all on paper, all fiat, waiting for a day of reckoning. Against that world, the American voter said, we've had enough. We don't want Mrs. Clinton, and we want a man in office who represents us, who speaks to us, who cares about us, who is common in his interest. Though he may be very wealthy, though he may own businesses around the world, all kinds of businesses, a man with an intact family, and his sons so well treated by their father that they are his associates. That speaks very highly of Donald Trump, that his sons are filial and loyal to him and to the family. And the connection is not just because they get paid. I mean, the connection has to be personal. These are personal relationships that this man has with his children, and so he is in business with them, and they with him. The vote was an action in replevin. We want our country back, and we are counting on Donald Trump somehow to restore this vague thing that we lost. Now, in replevin, it has to be for a physical object, from what I remember having read in the law about that action. It's a physical object. It can't be an intangible. Here, though, in the vote, we're trying to restore to ourselves an intangible. And Donald Trump carries the idea, and with defiance of the establishment. And yet, and he gave a magnificent inaugural speech on Friday, simply magnificent. It was just a magnificent speech, touching all the right points, saying that he intends to defer to you, my listener, the man who voted. And even if you didn't vote or didn't vote for him, he still represents the common interest, the working man, right? He was elected by the working man. Since the left has collapsed, the left does not care about the working man anymore, does not care about the distinction Marx made in his book, right? Das Kapital. The left doesn't care about defending that distinction, which is, of course, erroneous, but nonetheless, they don't defend that distinction and care for the working man and labor. Trump does represent that interest, and that's why factory workers and farm hands and people all across the country, in the Rust Belt and elsewhere, voted for him. And yet he is a man who is not a free marketer, and I think you need to know that. We've pointed that out, that he, for example, favors a rise in the minimum wage. As for the national debt, he's quoted here by FEED, the Foundation for Economic Education, in a nice little piece by Jeffrey Tucker, who's a noted defender of the marketplace. He is the content director for the Foundation for Economic Education, and also he's a member of the Mises Club. Trump also says, well, we can solve our problems by printing more money. I mean, that is simply debasing the value of the dollar by heavy creations of new debt, new dollars. It's said by the printing press. Of course, it's not printed. It's created digitally. But that is an old progressive argument. We are solving our problems by inflation. He wants to take private property to build the wall against Mexico, and he's praised the Japanese internment during World War II. He's called for shutting down parts of the internet. He has pushed for mass surveillance, and he has in his various speeches advocated new infringements on the right of Americans to buy products from abroad. And you heard in the news today his quotes about the company that shuts down factories here and builds goods overseas is going to face a stiff border tax on that good coming in if it's an American company. He has built a case for a bigger and more intrusive government. He began, Tucker says, with rhetorical assaults on immigrants and international trade, while extolling his managerial prowess as a much-needed CEO for the whole country. He's a state builder. Why would anyone believe that Trump is anything but that? Much of it has to do, he says, in a strange way in which people infuse candidates with their own ideological longings, hoping against hope that Trump shares their values. And fascism, just so you know, is a form of government, and it is nativist on trade and migration. It extols the leadership principle over national life, and that's why he was elected, because he's a leader. Here at the David Tulis program, we've always declaimed the idea of leadership. I'm a very big critic of leadership, partly because I believe in God's grace and I believe in the marketplace and people being left alone. Leave people alone to prosper, to invent, to build factories, to build everything from auto junkyards to pig farms, right? I advocate things that are ugly and gross because those are needful, right? They're part of the recycling industry and they need to have a place too. And fascism is about leadership. Fascism is about the man, the great one. Mussolini has a quote. I know you know it's an immortal quote. He said, "All within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state." And Trump said something similar. He says, "The nation state remains the true foundation for happiness and harmony." My own argument is that the marketplace really is that, and equity that we find explained in the Holy Scriptures. Equity summarized in the phrase lex talionis, which refers to the Ten Commandments, in which no wrong is ever given and punished with a greater wrong or a lesser wrong or lesser remedy. Right, the remedy is always equal to the offense. Here in Chattanooga, we are hearing about the war on gangs. The police are further escalating their paramilitary line of thinking, their surveillance-oriented, tough guy approach, as the mayor seeks re-election and held a press conference yesterday in front of the police services center on Anacola Highway. However, I want to suggest that there is a local economy argument for the gang problem. The gang problem, I don't think, can be confronted directly, but indirectly. Gangs are a cultural and social phenomenon, and policing creates the context in which gangs thrive. It creates an exciting warfare-oriented context and evoking all the strengths of the gang character, right? All the fidelity, faithfulness, and virtue that gang members have. And they do have that, right? In their own way, they have their loyalty, they have their lococentrism, they have their provincialism. They're a very highly provincial people. They identify with neighborhoods, they identify with families. They're highly, highly intelligent young men. They're extraordinarily intelligent young men. And I don't think just Jamuko is the only one. Right? I think many of them are like that. They're very subtle. They're very signal-oriented people. They know signals. They can weigh crowds swiftly, just like a detective can. Right? They have the skills of a detective in many ways, though they're on the wrong side of the law. Oftentimes, they're honor-oriented. They are hierarchical, just as police are. They have alliances. Gangs and police departments are similar in their nature, right? Police, you could say, is a kind of an official gang, and these young men who are minorities mostly have unofficial gangs that are kind of on the wrong side of the law. As I say, the police department are the good gang, right? They're the gang that has the law on their side. They have a public service duty. They have a peacekeeping function as well, and they have a part of their duty. Law enforcement aside, is the care for people who are injured or in danger and at risk. They're there to save lives and to bring security and peace. That is the stated mission, as Chief Fletcher pointed out, on the mantra of safety. I think that safety is not something the state should meddle with, but rather justice. The state should care about justice. Safety should be left to the individual and to prudence. Now, in the way of reform that needs to come to Chattanooga, needs to be part of the debate among the candidates for mayor, and it's not. It is not part of the debate, and needs to be. If you, my listener, ask the question about this next time you see Larry Groen or Dave Crockett or Andy Burke, say, what about the 4 laws of reform? These are de-escalation, space, time, and cover. De-escalation, space, time and cover. Those are the 4 watchwords for reform that would save American lives and reduce the risks of police confrontation and police war making, if you will, through process and threat and bluff against these young men and others who are involved in violations of the law. Seattle has other places as well have important lessons for us in this direction. According to the 30 Guiding Principles on the Use of Force, a paper that came out in March, remarkable for its insight into the problem we have here in Chattanooga. And the police department, through Fred Fletcher, who believes in community policing, I don't believe has settled on these claims upon that profession. And as I say, these claims for reform will save American lives, meaning people who do not deserve capital punishment, do not deserve summary execution, or gunfight deaths will be spared. They will be treated for their mental illness. They will be charged with other crimes, but they will not perish in a fusillade of shooting. Now, in Seattle, just for example, there were 2,516 incidents where the subjects were disorderly, belligerent, had knives or other weapons. All right, guess how many people had to face the use of force? Well, just 2%. 2% because of training in that department that emphasizes dialogue and discussion. De-escalation is the word for that. De-escalation. Despite those serious challenges, a monitor found that officers used force in only 51 of those incidents. 2%. Furthermore, of those 51 uses of force, 42 were classified as type 1, the lowest level, which includes soft takedowns, open or empty-handed strikes, or other disorientation techniques with wrist lock of sufficient force to cause pain or complaint of pain. These numbers suggest that the Seattle Police Department is using significant and appropriate restraint in difficult situations, making decisions that preserve safety and reduce the use of force. Now, use of force is not what's in view in fighting gangs as gangs. Okay, I think that these ideas need to be applied here, and I'm sure there are some in the police department that are already thinking in this direction in light of the March report. Officers, here's an example. Two officers were dispatched to the scene of an intoxicated individual in crisis holding 2 large butcher knives in each hand. The officers withdrew from the entrance of the apartment, creating distance. There you go, there's distance, and developed a rapport with the individual. The subject later complied with the officer's instructions and was taken into custody without further resistance. A quote from the police chief of Seattle, Kathleen O'Toole. She says, Seattle officers handled nearly 10,000 crisis interventions last year, and very few resulted in enforcement, okay, got that word, or the use of force. Most were routed to community mental health service providers. Few subjects were arrested. None of the incidents required lethal force by police, and less than 2% of the incidents involved de minimis or less lethal force. That is remarkable, and we need if the mayor wants to be elected, he needs to say, here, this sort of work is being done here. We've seen nothing about that, right? We've seen no PR from the mayor's office about this. The police department serves the mayor. The police department is an executive branch agency. He is fully responsible for every solved murder, every solved rape case, every solved robbery case, every successful police chase where an innocent person is not killed. He can take credit for it, or for them. And when there's a death or a police execution of an unarmed person through summary statutorily allowed, he's to blame for it. The Seattle chief says also there's a video where a man is with a knife, and here's what the officer says: I don't want to hurt you. I'm a negotiator. I'm trying to help you. That's why we're here. If you put the knife down and come over here and sit down, we can work something out. Could you please have a seat for me? You've been very respectful to me, and I appreciate that, okay? I'll try to be respectful to you. I appreciate that you dropped the knife. That took a big man to do that because I know you're upset. That's a great quote from a Seattle police officer in a confrontation. Houston Executive Assistant Police Chief George Noory says that he wants his SWAT people to say, we're not going to kill this person. We're not going to kill this person. We're not going to kill this person. And in fact, the SWAT captain, when he gets to the scene, has his men repeat that. They say that over and over again. We're not going to kill this person. We are not going to kill this person. There's a difference between the minimum requirements under the case Graham versus Connor 1989 decision. That's where we stand today here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. It's the Graham reasonableness use of force decision. That's not enough to go by, and you can't build a policy on the minimum. You just can't. I suggest here, David Tulis, thanking you for giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. That landmark decision says that the use of force has to be judged against a standard of objective reasonableness under the Fourth Amendment, which bans, of course, as you know, unreasonable searches and seizures. The court said the reasonableness of a particular use of force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene rather than with the 20/20 vision of hindsight. The calculus of reasonableness must embody allowance for the fact that police officers are often forced to make split-second judgments in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, rapidly evolving about the amount of force that is necessary in a particular situation. But it doesn't. That's the minimum. It really needs to be. It needs to go beyond that. There's a quote here from the Metropolitan D.C. Chief Kathy Lanier. She says, we need to teach the officers that it's okay in a scenario like that to step back. You've got the person's information, and this is why Chris Sexton did not have to perish. Police, the sheriff's deputies knew who he was. They knew where to find him. And here she is explaining why. Because Chris Sexton's life should have mattered. It should have mattered, and he could have been arrested later. Here's what she says. She says, you have the driver's license, you have the tag number, so you can get a warrant and make an arrest later. There's no reason to rush into that heightened environment and make an arrest and pull someone from a car. If the situation is tense and there's no immediate threat to the public, step back. Step back. Get a warrant and go make that arrest later when there's not so much tension. The line in the sand argument is deadly. It needs to be done away with. We know that East Ridge Police Department uses that argument, and I think Chattanooga uses it, and I believe under Sheriff Jim Hammond, who's elected, by the way, does that too. How long are they supposed to walk along the sidewalk with the suspect? At some point, you have to draw a line in the sand. Police training and culture for decades have emphasized that officers need to immediately take control of every situation, never back up. Okay, got that? Never back up, or tactically reposition, and to resolve every matter as quickly as possible. Those rules, the line in the sand rules, mean that innocent people in Chattanooga and Hamilton County they perish under police authority, and it's allowed under the statute, under the Graham position. It's allowed in the statute. Is that enough? Can Chattanooga do better? Can we use local economy? Can we use the conversational chit-chat economy to solve the gang problem? I think maybe that's a good direction. Can we soften police enforcement? Can we reduce police enforcement? Can the police really be helpers of the people rather than law enforcers against them? Because that's what's happening. The laws are enforced against the people, thanks to Mayor Andy Burke or whomever replaces him. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
On this cruise ship, your favorite pool makes its own waves. The sun is getting low. You're not too bad yourself. Smart guy. Took advice and deals from Expedia in Chattanooga. Great food, great fellow passengers, made friends. Terrific prices, free upgrades. Use the card with the onboard credit for a cold one. Maybe you use it in the game room. Expedia Rail, Expedia Flights, Expedia Cars. Maybe red tie for dinner. Expedia Cruise Ship Centers on Gun Barrel near Best Buy. 551-3770.
Cash, 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 and more cash.